The NewCo board selection is in, and unsurprisingly, the UCC co-chairs have selected themselves. Effectively a Dick Cheney maneuver. You're part of the search committee and you select yourselves. Technically, they recuse themselves from the selection process and have the other 5 members elect them. The notion of the UCC as a functional deliberative body is undermined somewhat by their unanimous selection of Fahrenheit over Nova Wolf. These were bids that were razor-thin close, and you would expect at least one holdout that might still favor Nova Wolf over Fahrenheit. But no, it was a unanimous selection. So recusing yourself from the selection process when the 5 members are going to vote with you anyway is not functionally very different. One interesting aspect of this is they've expanded the board from 7 to 9 members, and they've given Fahrenheit a 3rd appointment. The UCC saw fit to approve only 2 creditors to the board, and they happen to be the 2 co-chairs of the UCC, which is entirely self-dealing. There are no board members who have established a regular dialogue with the wider creditor community. Obviously, there was widespread creditor support for Simon Dixon, but there were also great creditors including Joe Lair, Crypto YOLO, and Sharon, who put in the time to build relationships with creditors and who have a proven track record of communicating their views to creditors and not being held captive by others. Having somebody with great communication skills, with a track record of communicating to creditors, who holds other people accountable, would have been incredibly valuable. And now we don't have that. Let's do a quick review of the selection. So one of the Fahrenheit appointees is Genoot from US Bitcoin. This was no surprise at all. He was going to be a shoo-in. Then they've selected Elizabeth LaPuma, who has experience working with WeWork, which was notable for the fraud perpetrated by its founding member, who did such things as personally register the WeWork trademark and then have WeWork, the company, pay him personally to license said trademark. He did all sorts of crazy self-serving things and was forced out of the company after destroying many hundreds of millions of dollars from SoftBank, which was involved in various investments that also included crypto-related investments. Then we go to Emmanuel Aidoo. He works for Perella. He has billed over 600 hours to the estate, so creditors have already been effectively paying his wages. These are not billable hours, they're just logged hours because Perella has arranged a flat rate. But still, he's getting paid at creditors' expenses. So good on you, Emmanuel, Executive Director for Perella Weinberg. Frederick Arnold, he has experience with complex situations and a background in Lehman Brothers, which is distinguished by being a spectacular failure. So wonderful. We have people that are experienced with failures. And it looks like he's also involved with WeWork. So we're getting lots of WeWork people. Awesome. Are we going to get some free co-working offices for creditors? That would be nice. Now we have Max Holmes, who has decades of experience in multiple sectors. He's up as an investment officer of Haven Asset Management, SEC registered investment advisor in Greenwich, Connecticut. Max is an adjunct professor of finance at the Stern School, my alma mater. So I'll give Max Holmes a thumbs up. Arrington is another Fahrenheit appointee, no surprise. And here we get to the co-chairs. So Scott Duffy, CEO of ICB Solutions, he has picked himself. Steve Kokinos, another shoe-in for the board. So I suppose Fahrenheit wanted to have Genoot, Arrington, and Steve Kokinos all together on the board while expanding from 7 to 9 members. And here we have the second co-chair, Thomas DiFiore, Mr. We want to maximize the value of sell. And I think Tom is a nice guy, but saying that in this case, when you're co-chair of the UCC, in my opinion, should be disqualifying. It reflects incredibly poor judgment. And you are picking yourself as a creditor to represent everybody. It's very questionable. Again, this is a Dick Cheney move. You may recall that Dick Cheney was appointed to be head of the Vice Presidential Candidate Selection Committee for George W. Bush. And after searching far and wide, who did he select? he selected Dick Cheney. And by some strange coincidence, they've limited themselves to selecting only 2 creditors, which happens to be themselves. So they never considered any creditors, including Simon Dixon. They never fairly considered creditors like Joe Lair or Crypto YOLO, who would have been excellent candidates because they have a record of communicating with the wider creditor community, and they have a track record of standing up to nonsense. When they see something they don't agree with, they say that thing. They're not just happy to be there. They would have stood up to the board if they made terrible decisions, in my opinion. That is a valuable board member rather than these WeWork cast-offs. We don't need people from WeWork and Lehman Brothers. Let's look at some public sentiment. Johnny Niceup finds it repugnant that the UCC has selected its co-chairs to represent us, effectively self-dealing. We have some counterweight here from SRACMC, who believes that because Tom has a lot of stake, he'd be good to represent us. One steelman case for the UCC appointing themselves is that they are the ones that are dragging us down this NewCo route, so they're going to be held responsible regardless. Therefore, they should be in place to oversee direction of the NewCo board. So that's one argument in favor of their self-appointment. I tweeted this out earlier in the week to underscore the fact that the UCC was oblivious to the fraud that occurred in the case, well beyond the point where they should have been. They had preferred access to all sorts of documents that the wider creditor community didn't. They had the debtor's ear where they could have forced the debtor to disclose certain information. They had all the tools available to uncover the fraud, and yet it was people outside of the UCC who were diagnosing the fraud most loudly. Recall that the UCC had a limited objection to the examiner's report. They wanted to conduct their own investigation, and yet they never tweeted the word fraud until a month after the examiner's report was filed on the docket. They needed the examiner's report in order to see the fraud, even though they thought that they themselves were capable of conducting the investigation. They seem to have proven that they were incapable of conducting the investigation. Again, we have to recall that one of the co-chairs was talking about maximizing the value of Cell 1 year ago, months after the bankruptcy had started. This was an insane position. There is no reason to believe that Cell token had any value.
Well, as a lot of you know, I think I have a pretty big position in Cell, and one of the keys is to maximize the value of Cell due to the amount that not only that the stakeholders have, but the Treasury has as well, is a key to getting the most value out of the entire stack. So obviously anything that we can do to keep the value of Cell and maximize the value of Cell is going to help all the creditors at the end of the day. So we're looking at all options available.
Yeah, that's exactly. And from a legal perspective, look, I can just tell you, we get a lot of inbounds from a lot of people that have Cell and want to do something involving Cell. It's an important issue for us. We spend a lot of time figuring out the best way to skin that cat and to try to, get the most value for it. I expect there'll be more dialogue and updates about that in the hopefully not too distant future.
The UCC had a stated goal of maximizing the value of Cell token. And did they deliver on that promise? Obviously not. They failed miserably because there were no buyers for Cell token, because Cell token was worthless. So instead of maximizing the value of Cell token and returning value to the estate, they instead assigned an arbitrary value for Cell token of 25 cents and had the wider creditor community pay those fees in the amount of tens of millions of dollars. So Cell token has made the wider creditor community more impoverished. They did not maximize the value of Cell. If people actually believed in the value of Cell, such as the Nova Wolf people or Thomas DiFiore, then put a bid together. You could have bought all the Cell token the estate has for $50 million. Case closed. That would have delivered value to creditors. But obviously the token doesn't actually have value. People aren't willing to put actions to words. They just want other people to bail them out. And yes, we the creditors have now bailed out cell token holders thanks to the direction of the UCC. Looking at Keith's tweet here, he is all for pulling yourself up from the bootstraps, but when nearly 100,000 people's life savings are on the line, can they at least find a board member who has an associate's degree? So not necessarily the most well-rounded academic candidates. I don't want to pick on him too much, but yes, it's saying he attended Gettysburg College, but does not list that he completed his degree. Tony V has put together a list of options for loans holders. So if you're looking to take advantage of the option to pay down your loan so you can repatriate it in some other destination, there's 3 options here, including figure lending, SALT lending, and LEDM, or lend. And the advantage of paying down your loan versus taking a set-off option, they both will return the same amount of value to you, but by paying down your loan, you can have certain tax advantages because the collateral is intact rather than being set off, in which case you have a tax event. You can also, through paying down your loan, control the particular type of crypto you'll be getting back. Because if you use the set-off treatment, you'll be converted to an earn claim, and you'll get a blend of Bitcoin and Ethereum back by default. Whereas if you pay down your loan, you'll get the actual collateral that you had to back the loan, providing that it's one of Bitcoin or Ethereum. So there is that advantage to paying down the loan. And here we have Zero Profit pointing out the lack of diversity on the NewCo board. We have 1 woman and 1 person of color and 7 white men. As part of the diversity requirements for listing on the NASDAQ exchange, the NewCo board was required to have 2 diversity candidates, and they followed through by appointing the absolute minimum.
Look, we want you to express yourself, okay? Now, if you feel that the bare minimum is enough, then okay, but some people choose to wear more, and we encourage that, okay? You do want to express yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's all I ask.
They were supposed to have 2 diverse candidates, and the board was supposed to be 7 members. So they expanded it to 9 members so they could shoehorn in 2 diversity candidates. That's what it sort of seems like. And then they got Fahrenheit an extra appointment. So not necessarily the best. So that's your NewCo board, and that's it for this edition. Catch you later.